Are you running out of time on the SAT? If so, you are not alone, and it's one of the biggest reasons that scores can stall. Today, I am going to be sharing 3 quick timing tips that you can use right away to finish every section and raise your score. If you want a deeper dive, I have a live strategy session coming up on August 11th. I will tell you more at the end, so let's get started. My first tip is to pre-plan your pacing. So what do I mean? You know what? I just want you to know what the parameters are of the test. So I'm going to show you the breakdown. So there's only 2 sections on the new SAT. One is reading and writing. The reading and writing section has 2 modules. Each module is 32 minutes and they each have 27 questions. That comes out to approximately 71 if you want to get specific, 70 seconds per question. So make sure you're aware of that. I highly recommend wearing a non-smartwatch. They're totally allowed when you take your test, and you can practice budgeting your time so that you do not run out of time at the end of the reading and writing section. So the way it works is the very first module will be your module 1 reading and writing. Once your first 32 minutes are up, they will say, okay, here we go, module 2, you have 32 more minutes to complete your second set of 27 questions. The same scenario happens during math. So after reading and writing 2 modules, you get a 10-minute break, and then you move on to the 2 math modules. Those are each 35 minutes with 22 questions. So it gives you a lot more time on the math questions, about 95 seconds or just over a minute and a half per question. A lot of students will say, and it really depends on your particular test. The test is adaptive, so you may get a different module 2 than other people, but a lot of people indicate that their module 2 is harder and they run out of time more likely on module 2. So it's really important to know this and plan your pacing in advance for module 2 specifically. Okay, next tip is skip smarter. Let me explain what I mean here. There are questions on the SAT that really can drain your time. Here is an example of a passage from the reading section that I feel like could be one of those time drain questions. Now, at the end of this passage, I wanted you to be able to read it, so I didn't put the answer choices in here. There were 4 answer choices that said which choice most logically completes this text. As you can see, there's a lot of scientific vocabulary in here, and it's kind of a complex and a little bit of a lengthy passage for the reading and writing section. So I would suggest if you get stressed out about questions like that, you might want to skip this one and come back to it. Now, I also think if you are going to skip a question, that you could just put a placeholder answer in there just in case you don't have time to come back to it. The way you put a placeholder is you can go here where it says mark for review on all of the questions. I just had cropped it out of that one, but it'll be on every single question on the SAT. So you can indicate mark for review. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Here are a couple of examples then of math questions that might be time drain questions too. So this one, I think a lot of students get crunched for time on the fill in the blank questions, which account for about 25% of the SAT math questions. So a lot of people will solve it and then second guess and solve it again and again because you don't have multiple choice answers. So if you are one of those people, you can, put an answer in, come back to it and do it later if you want. And then the other one I wanted to mention for math is just a question, like maybe you had a really hard time with function notation. Here's an example of function notation. Maybe geometry is not your thing and there's like a circle question and you're unsure of how to solve it. Those are good opportunities for you to skip those temporarily, put a placeholder answer in and come back. The way it looks so this is what you can pull this up at any time during a test. This one is reading and writing. So this is a module 1. There you can see your 27 questions. And you can see which questions you have remaining. And then at any time you can also go to the review page, which looks like this. I filled in one. So here is, let's say, my reading and writing when I had 8 minutes left. I didn't finish 5 questions. Maybe I just completely skipped them. I knew I could come back to them. And then number 17 was extra hard for me. So I flagged that one. And that's what it looks like when you flag the question. So I would say, in general, if you think you're going to spend more than about a minute and a half on a reading question, it's one of those really long passages or some really tough vocabulary, or if you think it might take you more than 2 minutes on a math question, I would take a guess, move on, and come back at the end. And make sure you flag it. And tip 3 is to use micro deadlines. This one's really easy and I think really powerful. So what I want you to do is at about the halfway point on each module, check in really quick, see if you're pacing, see if you're on pace. If not, speed it up. If you are, awesome. Again, module 2 this is particularly important for. So for reading and writing, 16 minutes is about the halfway point. You should be roughly on question 15. That's a little bit over halfway. And for each of the math modules, check in at about 18 minutes. You should be about halfway through, or at least maybe to question 11 or 12. If you are at that pace, you are probably going to be able to finish most, if not all, of the questions. So I think one little check-in can really make a difference, and see if at that point you need to go a little bit faster or if you're on a good pace. And I would like to give you a bonus tip. Hooray! My bonus tip has really helped a lot of my students. I want you to practice taking a practice test in Blue Book under real-timed conditions. What does this mean? Take at least one, if not more, practice tests. I want you to take it in one sitting. I want you to take it with your non-smartwatch. I want you to take it in a quiet environment, whether that be in a room in your house where you're not going to have any distractions, or even go somewhere like the library and take it. And I want you to, this is probably the biggest tip that's helped my students, take it at 8 a.m. Get up, make sure you know how it feels when you're going to be going to the SAT at the exact same time you're going to be taking it in real conditions. All of those things seem to really help my students. So I hope you take advantage of those. Now, like I mentioned before, I am offering a strategy sprint session, which is going to be full of more tips just like this, and not only timing tips, but we're going to be talking about like strategy for certain types of questions. We're going to dive into what kinds of questions there are on each reading and writing and math, and kind of a schedule for how to study. So if you're interested in that, I have a link in the description. I would love for you to join us. Thanks.